Saturday, September 22nd, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 2018. Guys, in this video, we're going to take a look at multiple weather phenomenon. We're going to start here with the new tropical storm that's developed off the west coast of Africa. Like we mentioned yesterday, we saw some tropical muscle flexing here off the west coast of Africa, right there, as it entered the warm waters, setting sail for the long journey, possibly across the Atlantic Ocean, towards at least right now, the Caribbean. May make its way up into the U.S. mainland. It is now already less than 24 hours later a tropical storm. But first I want to talk about a storm that went through Ottawa, up in Canada, Quebec, Gatineau, saw a tornado, another community just south and west of Gatineau, if I'm not mistaken. Don't know if it's the same tornado, or I think it was Dunrobin. I don't know if it was the same tornado or two. All I know is there was over 100,000 people without power. Unfortunately, there were injuries. Just a very rare situation. I've got some exclusive pictures from the area that I want to share with you guys. And I've also got the storm that caused this on radar. I actually recorded this storm before it did the damage. And I'd made mention of this storm to the people up in Canada and Nova Scotia, to be ready for this thing, at least for some high winds. And in fact, let me show you the storm. Here it is. I recorded this thing on the 20th as it was unfolding, and it extended like a giant thunderbird all across North America up into southern Canada. And when I saw that reaching across right there into the Quebec area, going over into Nova Scotia, and this is not done yet, by the way. This is going to pair up with another storm to form an even bigger force and make its way over into northern Europe by midweek next week. So look for some hurricane force winds in northern Europe next week, guys, courtesy of this storm right here that caused tornado in Quebec, and actually quite a bit of damage. I've got some exclusive pictures sent in by Vincent from the area, but that was one gigantic storm. Never seen anything quite like it. So when that branched out, I expected high winds. I certainly was not expecting tornadoes that did this kind of damage. Unbelievable. I don't know if this was an EF, looks like an EF2, possibly an EF3. They just don't see tornadoes in this area here. Unbelievable amount of damage. I'd like to thank Vincent for sharing these photos. Took a roof off of this apartment building right there. From what I understand, 6 homes were completely leveled. This was a very rare situation that did a lot of damage. Unbelievable. That roof there is pretty much a complete and total loss. In fact, the entire building might be a complete and total loss. I don't know. They are just not used to tornadoes in this area. But when I saw that storm, I knew it had potential, and I'm telling you, it's not done yet. It's going to make a journey across the North Atlantic and stir some winds over in northern Europe in about 5 days. So be ready, guys. Look at the damage here. Just an unprecedented event. Over 100,000, I think 170,000 customers without power. Super rare. Trees down all over the place. I think this is a car that's flipped over. Just unbelievable. Damage that goes way up. This is a 8-story building. And you can see broken windows all the way up at the top of this building. Twisted trees. Those were some very strong winds. At least EF2. Unbelievable. Thank you, Vincent, for sharing. I hope everyone's okay that was involved in this storm. I know there were some injuries, and I'm sorry, guys. I saw this big storm coming, but I did not know it would produce tornadoes up in Canada. I did not expect that. But we've been seeing a lot of things here lately that are kind of new to the weather scene. Earth is changing. However you want to identify that change, we are going through some historic changes on planet Earth with regard to our weather and climate. Rain is coming down in record rates. We just saw record rainfall in Dallas, the Tyler, Texas area, Austin. Streets were turned to rivers in a matter of hours. Instantly pretty much ended a drought, which was a good thing, but they didn't need the flooding that kind of got out of hand. But here's where the tornadoes touched down. If it was the same one, it started in Dunrobin and went over to Gatineau, doing damage all along the way. I want to show you this storm. I showed you one aspect of the storm as it first started, as it traveled across the U.S. up into Canada. Now, as it's leaving Canada, this is at windy.com, this is the storm system here. It's going to travel across the North Atlantic, and it's going to make its way into northern Europe. Right there, it's going to join forces. Look how big that gets. It's over 500 miles wide. And that's, I don't think it's a named storm. It might be. We'll have to wait and see when the time comes. But that's Wednesday of next week, going right into northern Europe, Sweden, Norway. You guys could see winds of 65, 75 miles per hour. There's a 77 mile per hour wind. That's getting near, or it's right at hurricane force. And that's on Wednesday into Thursday during the overnight hours. So that same storm system that did all that damage in Canada is headed your way. So big heads up. Also, another storm that went through Iowa yesterday, or the day, actually yesterday. These storms are really starting to rack up. I'm getting them mixed up here, trying to keep them separated anyway. Iowa, this storm system here from the 21st, I've got some awesome pictures of the sky that just are mind-blowing. This one and this one that was sent in by Midge of a incredible shelf cloud. And like I said before, this is becoming the new rule instead of the exception. When thunderstorms spawn, they just produce these big high-profile shelf clouds that roll through the area wherever they may be and do a lot of damage. And that one did. Brought a lot of rain to Iowa, tornadoes up in Minnesota. I've got a photograph here from Minnesota. Let's see if I can find it here real quick, of what looked like tornadoes that touched down, did a lot of damage anyway, up in Minnesota. Let me see if I can find that photograph here real quick. Here's the photo here. It was sent in by Amy. This is from Cannon Falls, Minnesota. And part of that same storm system dropped tornadoes in Minnesota, doing extensive damage there as well. At least EF1, possibly EF2s. This photograph here, I'm not exactly sure what we're looking at. One for sure looks like a tornado, possibly two. This could be three. I'm not really sure. There's not a whole lot of clarity involved with this photograph. She sent it in, said the devastation in this area was unbelievable. So more tornadoes associated with that storm system that went across the U.S. Like I said, this thing looked like a 1,800 mile long Thunderbird flying across North America. Big, powerful storm. And that thing had some high winds that produced tornadoes. Now we're going to go down to the tropics real quick. We talked about the possibility of this system as it came off the west coast of Africa instantly gaining momentum, counterclockwise rotation, and sure enough, it did graduate almost immediately up to a tropical storm in less than 24 hours. It's even been confirmed here at the National Hurricane Center. It's got a name already. That's Kirk. There's some other areas of interest out here in the Atlantic, so we may see some more hurricanes develop. This is just a tropical storm right now, but this thing could have some potential as it makes its way towards the Lesser Antilles. Right now, a Thursday afternoon, by Thursday afternoon, it should be in the Caribbean, right up next to the Lesser Antilles. The small islands down there, you guys need to be on alert. This storm could be an overachiever. I know one thing, when it hit the warm waters, it instantly turned into a tropical storm. Sometimes these things gain strength as they move forward, as we all know. This one is right now forecasted to remain a tropical storm, quite possibly a mid-range to low-end tropical storm because of wind shear. If the wind shear departs, then it's a different story. So right now, expect at least a tropical storm, and we'll see where it goes from there. But there's also some energy behind that storm system that's yet to come off the coast. So we'll have to wait and see what that does. But there is a lot of energy leaving the west coast of Africa that could produce even more of these tropical storms. This one here looks like it does have a lot of potential. The only thing holding it down is the wind shear in the area, if it ever, what that it's headed towards. It's not in wind shear right now. That's why it forms so quickly. But it's going to enter wind shear before it gets to the Lesser Antilles, which is a good thing. But after that, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what it's going to bring. I want to leave you guys with another look. This is the Western Pacific, another Cat 5 in the Western Pacific. This is probably number 6 or 7 Cat 5 that they've seen this year in the next 72 hours. This is Typhoon Tamwi, and it will be a Cat 5 in 72 hours, headed towards right now Taiwan as possibly a Cat 4. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that one, but yet another strong typhoon in the West Pacific. So the hurricane season's far from over. Still got a few weeks left. It looks like the Atlantic season is picking up, and it is far from over, guys. It doesn't actually end until I think sometime in November. I wanted to show you guys this lightning strike sent in by Matthew from Tallahassee, Florida. Really super cool. Check this out. Long duration horizontal lightning strike that does all kinds of cool stuff. Good job, Matthew. And I've also got another lightning strike that was sent in right here from Texas. This was sent in by Scott. Watch your speakers. I've kind of got it turned down a little bit. That one had some lightning with it, or thunder. Here comes some big thunder. That's big thunder there out of Longview, Texas. I just put that in slow motion to kind of give it a different effect, but big impressive lightning bolt. Good capture by Scott from Longview, Texas. Thanks for sharing, Scott. Greatly appreciate it, man. And thank you, Matthew from Tallahassee. I've had that on my desk for a week, and I've meant to share it in an earlier video, and I remembered to share it today. So watch the tropics, guys. They are heating back up again. We've got several areas of interest out in the Atlantic. Got something that could be moving back towards the East Coast. Right now, it's just a tropical disturbance, but you never know with these things. So hopefully, I mean, and that's the last place on Earth there needs to be any type of tropical landfall. It doesn't look like it's going to be a landfall at the moment, but these things can change every hour, so we'll just have to keep a very close eye on that. But there is something out there offshore that is headed towards the east coast of the United States. This storm system here up in the North Atlantic, big heads up, guys. That storm there by Wednesday or Thursday could have hurricane force winds. Thanks for watching. Have a super day, and be safe out there.